Hello and welcome to the Bread and Rosaries Christmas party. I'm Ben and Molly in Heatherton. I'm joined today by Adam Spears. Before we start, I have been asked by HR to remind everyone that whilst we wanted to have fun on the Christmas party, you still represent the podcast, and it's important. Wait, Adam's already photocopying his bare ass. He doesn't even drink. Adam, what are you doing? This was meant to be a nice, wholesome Christmas party. What's going on over there?
I feel like you don't know me at all. I wouldn't even go to the Christmas party, let alone do any of that nonsense.
You're saying that you would never photocopy your bare ass?
I mean, if I had the ass of a bear, I'd probably photocopy that.
I mean, look, if you're any gay archetype, you are a bear. So
isn't that just a fat bearded man? That's just what it is? Like, if I lose weight and shave, I won't be a bear anymore. I'll be like a twink or whatever.
Adam, I say this with love. You'll never be a twink. I fear we're getting into the Always Sunny in Philadelphia bit where they debate what a power bottom is, and it's like a bunch of straight people obviously being clueless about gay culture. So I'm cautious around that, but I'm confident in saying that whatever a twink may or may not be, there is no definition of twink that includes either you or I.
Okay, well, I bow to your superior knowledge and experience on this matter.
I must have told you the story about when I was working with a young person who was convinced I was gay. Because I think essentially because I wore skinny jeans and boots.
You're a millennial, I mean.
Yeah, to a certain teenager, being in your 30s is the same as being gay. So
sounds legit.
And he would just obsessively ask me every time I saw him if I was gay. And then one time, another staff member let slip that I was married to a woman. And he was so excited, and he came up to me and was like, "I know you're not gay. You've got a wife." And I felt so smug because I was able to just do the mic drop of being like, I could still be bisexual, couldn't I? Blew his tiny little mind.
Yeah, but is bisexual gay? Because, like...
to him, I would say yes.
Right, okay.
I understand that queerness is an umbrella and there's complexities of identity in that, but I don't think we were necessarily working on that level with that particular person. Have you ever been to a Christmas party?
A work one?
Yeah.
Oh, well...
You have had a job, right?
I have one now. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have, but like, I feel like the jobs that I have had tend to be the kinds of jobs that attract a certain kind of person. So there's not much bare ass photocopying going on. It's like, let's have some mince pies and put on a Christmas carol, you know?
And with you, certain type of person, like, could be Christian or could be autist, and it's hard to know exactly.
I mean, there's a certain Venn diagram of Christian, autist, leftist that there's quite a few of us like dotted about, and we do seem to end up in the same places.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the best work Christmas party I ever went to was when years ago I was working at a laser tag place. This is long ago, in fact, that you and I probably hadn't met at this point, so that's how long we're talking. And while I was there, we had the Christmas party, and the Christmas party was essentially the management bought everyone a bunch of booze at the laser tag place and some takeaway pizza, and then we played laser tag while getting progressively drunker.
Amazing.
Which was pretty good. Like,
you've had some crazy jobs, and you've lost some jobs in crazy ways, I happen to know.
I don't think we should be talking about that in a public recording.
I didn't say anything. I'm just letting people know what kind of person you are. Can't be trusted.
I've only lost one job in a slightly crazy way.
Okay.
The less said about that, the better.
That was amazing, and my small part in that, I will forever be kind of proud of my part in your losing that job.
We won't go into that any further, but let's just make it very clear for listeners and potential future employers that it is not a safeguarding risk or anything that in any way endangers my DBS.
No, that's true. That is true. I will vouch for that.
So we're going to have our Christmas party this week.
I'm not feeling like. So I've got a cold, just so everyone knows. So like, I'm not feeling that much in a party mood. Like literally, this is lemsip in this cup.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like, what you can't necessarily hear is like, I'm trying to suppress all the coughing and spluttering and spewing that's trying to burst forth from me. So we can have the Christmas party, but I'm leaving early.
And the problem is that you are also the one of us that has Christmas cheer in his soul. Like you are like a big Christmas person, right?
I do like Christmas, yeah.
Whereas I have been accused in my time of being a bit of a Scrooge.
A Scrooge or a Grinch?
I mean, I guess a Grinch in the sense that Scrooge is obviously a capitalist pig, and I'm not that. But yeah, I've been accused of being a bit of a Grinch.
People don't realise that there is a big difference between those two. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that you've spelt that out.
I don't see myself as an actual Grinch. I see myself as someone who loves Christmas for the like 4 to 5 days Christmas should last, and then it escapes containment, and I hate it because I'm like, like Christmas music is fun for like from like the 23rd to the 27th. And if you have to listen to it any more than that, it just becomes clear that it's very bad.
Okay, so here's the thing. There are people who think that I myself am a Grinch and or Scrooge because I have very particular ideas about Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And what I will say is I agree with the principle of what you're saying in its broadest sense, in that clearly the lead up to Christmas being 2 months long is ridiculous. But this is one of the ways in which I think tradition is important, because there are 12 days of Christmas and none of them occur before the 25th.
Yeah,
and
true.
What bothers me is that we completely ignore Advent, apart from the fact you can get some nice chocolatey calendars, and we turn the whole of Advent into pre-Christmas.
Yeah.
And not in like an Advent-y kind of way. And then as soon as like Christmas Day is over, like done.
Yeah.
It's not Christmas anymore. And that bothers me because what ends up happening, one of the things that really annoys me about this, and you can tell that I've got a bee in my bonnet about this because I start talking fast and yeah. But we send the kids back to school on like the 2nd or 3rd or 4th or something. And it's still Christmas.
Yeah.
How can you send the children back to school when there are 12 days of Christmas? Mm-hmm. They're very specific, and we should stick to them. And we should have a season of Advent, which should be Adventy, not Christmassy. I've said my piece. I am right. I will not be accepting any critique of this. If you have anything to say about that, you can feel free to email us, but I will delete it immediately.
I'll just say I think I'm broadly on board with you. So yeah, I will vouch for that. For today's Christmas episode, or this year's Christmas episode, I suppose, we have decided that we're going to bring into the world the inaugural Bread and Rosie. No, that's not the name of the podcast. That's kind of a basic thing that I shouldn't fuck up, right? We have decided to bring into the world the inaugural Bread and Rosaries Awards. So
that should have had like jingle bells or something, but I ran out of spaces on the on the board, on the soundboard. So sorry about that.
There is a version of the theme song with jingle bells on, so make sure you use that
somewhere. Yeah.
Get involved. So we have, I think we have 9 awards that we're going to give out. There was a list of potential awards that was like 20 awards long or something that we had to narrow down quite aggressively. There has been some conflict because Adam has wanted to do mostly positive awards, and my dark, sick soul was struggling to be positive. So we have a few negative ones, but we are mostly gonna award positive awards. So without further ado, we'll start with our first award, which is a negative award, or maybe it's not. In fact, if you're the winner of this award, no, it's not. This is the Bread and Rosaries Peace Prize. Um, Inspired by FIFA giving Donald Trump a peace prize, we have decided to give our own peace prize. Peace is not spelt the usual way; it is spelt Piece. It is for the biggest piece of the year. And the idea of this award is both to award someone who was a bit of a piece, but also, in the spirit of the FIFA Peace Prize, it is also an attempt to curry favour with someone that we want something of. So, Adam, would you please like to tell us who your nominee for the Piece of Shit Prize is?
My nominee. This was really hard, by the way. There were so many people I could have put here, but on balance, I've gone with Elon Musk.
Strong.
I mean, the guy started the year off by doing a Nazi salute. So,
God, that feels so long ago now.
It does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's I feel like that's starting off strong there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the guy is he currently apparently has assets of $450 billion, which is ridiculous. I can't. Yeah, you can't even fathom it, right? I did a video recently that's doing all right on the old TikTok.
Yeah, I know. Sarah showed it to me because obviously I'm not on TikTok.
Really?
But she was like, "You'll enjoy this." Like,
basically, Zach Polanski's got this line about how 1 million minutes would take you to 2023, 1 billion minutes would take you to the Roman Empire. So I wanted to know, well, Elon Musk has 450 billion. Where would 450 billion take you? And basically, it would take you to 850,000 years ago, which is about almost three times the amount of time that that modern humans have existed. So,
okay. So my question is, in the tradition of the FIFA Peace Prize, what do you want off Elon Musk?
All his money and his soul.
Okay, well, he doesn't have the second one.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So my nomination for the Peace Prize is William Nye, the current, basically the actual head honcho of the Church of England, and an absolute piece.
Interesting that you've gone Christian here, because I avoided going Christian here because I know what some of the other categories are coming up.
Well, I think what I thought was, actually, he's someone I do want things off of. Ideally burning the Church of England to the ground. But he is someone that actually could pull some levers, in the same way that Trump is going to make soccer become football in the US.
That was awful.
Yeah,
Try that again.
No, that's...
Soccer?
Soccer. I'm really bad at accents. I don't have your facility for it. But yeah, obviously that's, a big step forward for humanity and decency in the world. Do I think, I'm not saying William Nye could push gay marriage through the Church of England. That's probably the one thing that he couldn't do. He could certainly click his fingers and make safeguarding a whole bunch better if he wanted to. And he's shown absolutely no interest in doing so. He could make the decision to change how the money is spent. He absolutely can make the decision, as we talked about last week, not to invest in arms companies. He has an extraordinary amount of power. No one knows who he is. He is making pretty much universally terrible choices. But my hope is if we give him this prize, we can maybe have a word with him about, solving one or two of those things. So my nomination is William Nye.
I think you're thinking outside the box, and I appreciate that. I think a bit of a stretch to put him in the same category as the very worst people in history.
I disagree.
I mean, I know that's...
No, that's probably, I think there's something about the banality of evil to him, because he's a career, civil servant, then he worked as a royal secretary for a bit. The man is bureaucracy incarnate, and I suspect he's just amoral. And there's something about that, like Musk is a horrific human being, but at least there's something to him, you know? And William Nye has the same thing Keir Starmer used to have before he really got an eye, of like just blandly evil. I think if you ask me who's a bigger piece of shit, it's obviously Elon Musk. If you ask me who I think we can potentially influence by giving them a Peace Prize, I think we've got more chance of William Nye. So, but
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree.
He's a desperate little bitch, isn't he, Elon Musk? I forget that.
He really is. I mean, he's the same level as Trump, right?
You're right. It's probably more likely Musk would show up to collect this award.
Yeah, I mean, William Nye he's like a state guy through and through, right? He's a civil servant. He's a courtier. Like, he was secretary to the Prince of Wales. Like, I don't think he is going to care about this kind of thing at all, because we don't really carry that kind of weight.
Yet, we will.
Yeah. But people like Elon Musk, they live for their ego to be massaged. Uh-huh. And I think a little bit of that, if we give him this Peace Prize, he'll be all over that.
All right, I'm prepared to accept that. The winner of the Ben & Rosaries Peace Prize for 2025 is Elon Musk. Let's move on. It is time for the Jack Carlson Award for Protest.
Did you want to go first with this one?
I would love to go first, but would you like to tell the people who don't know Jack Carlson who Jack Carlson is?
So Jack Carlson, rest in peace.
Yeah, he died, didn't he?
Yeah, about a year ago, I think. He became very famous for his arrest in 1991.
Just a moment, you just assured me that I could speak.
Sit down inside the car. We're not assuring anything. We're under arrest.
Look, I'm under what?
Come on.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Get some cups.
Why did you do this to me?
Hop in the car. Get some cups.
For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir. Oh, yes. I see that you know your judo well. Good one. And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis? How dare get your hands off me.
No, we've only got one cup.
Ta-ta and farewell.
That's all right, just getting in the car.
One cup, look. They even broke.
This is, therefore, the Jack Carlson Award for Protest. I am going to shout out specifically the Scotswood Three people from Newcastle, 3 young women who were arrested earlier this year in February for essentially doing a direct action protest against the Raphael owned factory in Newcastle on Scotswood Road, hence the Scotswood 3 name, which is actually just down the road from me, very, very close by. This is a factory that is owned by a company that has the majority shareholder is the Israeli state. So this is a company that is a defense manufacturer owned by the Israeli state, currently developing weapons within Newcastle. Obviously very good. They smashed the place up. It's part of the People Against Raphael campaign, which, big shout out, they're doing really great work. And yeah, they are facing charges next year. I believe there hasn't been an attempt yet to upgrade it to terrorism charges. It remains criminal damage. But it seems pretty clear that because they're not eligible for legal aid, there is kind of an attempt to use the legal system to grind them down, because they have a pretty strong defence. You know, there has been multiple situations where people have been found not guilty because they are preventing a greater harm, i.e. a genocide happening. But in order to do that, you need to be able to pay for lawyers and to pay to kind of survive the process of going through trial. So, yeah, they're really cool. Obviously, smashing up Israeli weapons manufacturers is a cool thing to do. So, yeah, big shout out to the Scotswood 3 and People Against Raphael.
I think that's a solid a solid suggestion, and I would be proud to lose my one to that. However, I've gone on a very similar theme, and I've gone with the people, the hunger strikers, currently on hunger strike at the moment. I think across 5 prisons. I understand there are 8 of them on hunger strike at the moment. In the last few days, a number of them have entered into the sort of critical 45-day and above period where, like, the risk of death is essentially imminent. This is really, really dangerous. And obviously, we don't want to see people going on hunger strike. It's a really dangerous thing. But the fact that they're doing this, you hear all the time, well, it's their choice, isn't it? Well, is it their choice that they have been essentially kidnapped and held without charge, without trial, for a year, for something that does not pose a danger to the public, right? Let's be very clear about that. So they're slightly different charges. Some of them were the ones who allegedly broke into RAF Bryce Norton. I think some of them are Filton.
Yeah, as I say, I thought I thought they were the Filton 24.
There's some of them, and so there's various ones who have done or are accused of doing various things, right? But I think a few of them are Filton, a few of them are Bryce Norton. But basically, they are on hunger strike. Partly, their demands are, for one thing, that the UK stop selling weapons to a state committing genocide.
A good shout. I think we can all agree.
Another one is that they are released, that they're given bail. Which is one of, apart from the one I just said, is probably their biggest demand. But when you think about it, it's really not that big a demand.
No. They've posed no danger.
And what's interesting about it, we've spoken about this before, but their defence, so they may or may not be able to use, given that they're trying to strike this down at the moment, the government, the use of the defence that you're trying to prevent a bigger crime taking place, right? So, like, that's something that the government is trying to force through to prevent that being able to be used as a defence in court.
I mean, the government is trying to get rid of trial by jury, for fuck's sake. Like, it is
for most things, including these. I mean, this, and you've got to say, like, clearly part of the reason they want to do that is because they want to have essentially kangaroo courts just rushing through trials for people like this. And it's interesting because Keir Starmer himself has, when he was a human rights lawyer, used that defence when he was defending people.
Yeah.
So, we've spoken about the hypocrisy of Keir Starmer before, and we're here once again. So they are my nominations. I think for me, it feels like a really pressing thing. And the courage to do that, to go on a hunger strike and demanding that the government takes what is the only moral position, I think for me commands a lot of respect.
Yeah, full solidarity to the hunger strikers and the Filton 24 and everyone else in prison facing terrorism charges for having a moral conscience. I think I can't argue with them as our official recipient of the Jack Carlton Award for protest.
I think your ones as well, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're all very much part of the same movement, right? Like, and subject to the same pressures.
Yeah, and I think there's only one more thing that we need to say about both of those groups, and what they're doing and what they're challenging, and that is that,
gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
It truly is. It truly is. Right, let's move on. The St. Moses the Black Award for the biggest badass. St. Moses the Black is an old saint of the week and an absolute badass. I should have looked up what episode he was Saint of the Week on, but I didn't. But go back somewhere to St. Moses the Black in our archive. Fantastic dude, absolute badass. Adam, who would you like to nominate for the St. Moses the Black Award?
So I want to nominate the Freedom Flotilla. In fact, every iteration of it, because there have been multiple, with a special mention for Chris Smalls and Greta Thunberg, as they were tortured in Israeli detention.
Yeah, so unfortunately we have a bit of an issue here.
Have you given the same?
Yeah. I also have I did think, is he going to say Greta? I've just put Greta Thunberg, so I think in order to make this work, you have to argue for Chris Smalls, and I have to argue for Greta Thunberg.
No, because I can't argue against Greta.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, my actual thing is the whole Freedom Flotilla.
Yeah, 100%.
I just thought that Chris Smalls and Greta Thunberg needed that. And they're not the only ones who experience torture, of course, but they're the most high-profile ones. And Chris Smalls, obviously being an African-American man, was tortured because of his race, whereas Greta Thunberg obviously was tortured because she's a high-profile figure. So I think, their suffering, their torture was kind of worthy of mention, but also to kind of point out that others within that were tortured as well, to varying degrees. And
I think it's particularly impressive in terms. And she wasn't the only one, by any chance, but with Thunberg, she rejoined it, so she's been on it twice this year, the flotilla, which is quite impressive. I think she's an incredible person, and someone, as we've discussed before, who could have become a kind of decent liberal, but instead has only become more and more radical as time has gone by, which is exceptionally cool, and we love to see it. So I think we have to say that Greta Thunberg is our St. Moses the Black Award for Badass of the Year.
We're going just Greta, not the whole flotilla?
I think whilst the flotilla deserves an honourable mention and respect, I think Badass is clearly a single person.
Okay, fine. I'll let you have this one since you're losing.
I didn't realise it was competition, but cool. She also, by the way, is not allowed in Venice, or got banned from Venice for 2 days for protesting in COP. She dyed the Grand Canal bright green, a month or so ago.
So you got people like Greta Thunberg being banned from Venice, whilst people like Jeff Bezos rented Venice for his wedding.
Yeah.
Just rented Venice.
Disgusting.
Oh.
Next up, we have the Paul Mason Award for turning heel. We've talked about Paul Mason before.
We could nominate Paul Mason for that.
I think, unfortunately, his heel turn predates 2025. If we were going back and giving historical awards, you bet your ass he would have won at one point. Formerly left-wing journalist and economist who has drastically shifted to the right in a desperate attempt to get given a parliamentary seat that has still not been forthcoming for him. Adam, I think I've got a slam dunk on this. So, a party leader of an allegedly left-wing party.
I know right now you're not about to say Keir Starmer.
Who crushed the left of his party, or attempted to crush the left of his party, through selective bannings, through taking power for himself and his allies rather than letting democracy take place. And someone who has a history of being left-wing but has seemingly shifted to the right due to the ongoing kind of situation. We are sadly, and I'm genuinely gutted about this, we're talking about Jeremy Corbyn, and he is my nomination for turning heel. I'm sorry, but he has shown his arse in a major way.
Come on.
No, are you really? I thought you'd been all over shitting on a career politician.
I mean, yeah, but I think you're oversimplifying something that and suggesting it's something that isn't quite what it is.
So it depends whether you believe that he is simply too spineless to stop people doing these things on his behalf, or whether he's active. I think he's a bit spineless. I don't think he's actively trying to do this stuff, but ultimately he is in a situation where he now represents the right wing of his party, and he is desperately trying to, put down the left wing of his party. And I was talking to people the other day about, I would not, if you told me, I don't know, 5 years ago that I would one day be organising actively against Jeremy Corbyn, I wouldn't have believed you. but here we are. Incredibly disappointing. And I don't think there's so much that he's changed as that he hasn't changed and the times have and the situation has. And he is, I think, probably very used to being the most left-wing person in the room, being the radical, being the, difficult one, I guess. And now he is kind of the establishment. And he doesn't necessarily know how to change with that. And yeah, I think this year I've been, he is someone that I have a huge amount of time and respect for. And I have been bitterly disappointed with how he's behaved this year.
I have been bitterly disappointed with him as well, but for different reasons. So people who listen to the podcast won't know this, but I met Jeremy Corbyn late last year, and he promised me that he would come on the podcast. And he's not been on the podcast, has he? Do you see Jeremy Corbyn on this podcast? I have not seen, unless he's been on without me being there somehow, he's not been. So I've been bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, I think another great reason that he should win this award. Look, I'm not happy. I'm not happy about it, but I do generally think that is the definition of turning heel this year, I'm afraid.
I don't think this is the slam dunk you think it is, right? I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a fairly minor thing. And I don't think this is turning heel in quite the same, in quite the same nasty ways as, the person that I'm going to nominate. Now, the difficulty for me is that I actually have two names written down.
Okay.
Because I couldn't decide between them. And I don't know whether we're going to allow me to have two.
Okay.
Or whether I have to pick one.
Throw them both out there. I'll decide if one of them is a stronger case than the other.
I think one is a stronger case than the other, but it's a more obvious case than the other. So the first one is Graham Linehan.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Here's my thing, though. These are 2025 awards.
I don't think they are. I think we're allowed.
Okay. Go. Okay.
The other one is Russell Brand.
Oh. Okay. Go on. Give us both of those.
Well, Graham Linehan. Part of the issue with Graham Linehan is that I really love Father Ted, and I really like the IT Crowd as well. And now I can't watch them without hating myself.
Yeah, I get that. Because
Graham Linehan is a nasty, nasty little transphobe who harasses trans women in particular, and is really litigious with it as well.
Yeah.
And has been a big part of the change of direction that we are seeing happening over the last sort of 10 years or so here on Turf Island. Yeah. Graham Linehan, I think, would be a very worthy winner of the Turning Heel award. Mm-hmm. Russell Brand, we did obviously a whole episode on Russell Brand. It's sort of difficult on Russell Brand because, of course, accusations of rape and sexual assault have come to light that happened prior to his apparent political awakening, where he seemed to become kind of left-wing. Yeah. And then since he became left-wing, he has clearly shifted to the right, or at least in a way that has aligned him with the right. And I think this is quite an interesting thing with Russell Brand is, and partly why I think he's a really strong case for turning heel, is that he's very, very careful about how he says the things he says. Mm. So he will say, I have not become right-wing. when, of course, what he's doing when he speaks is he's selectively using language that appeals to that kind of right libertarian sensibility, whilst having plausible deniability for actually being right-wing himself. Right.
Yeah.
And the reason he's done this is because, and this is part of his conversion to Christianity as well, is clearly because when he became subject to those allegations, he needed to find an audience that would support him, and partly also an audience that would continue to pay his bills. And he knew he wasn't going to get that from the left.
Yeah.
So a clear heel turn there in such a cynical way that I think, I think I've argued myself into it. I think he beats both Jeremy Corbyn and Graham Linehan.
So I agree with you, he beats Linehan.
And you've just Googled whether this all took place this year or last year, and now you're going to argue that he doesn't meet it.
So Linehan, I think it's too late. He has been a heel for a long time, but also I would say with both of them, I don't think Linehan was a funny writer, but he was never like a public leftist necessarily. He was maybe a liberal.
Still a heel turn though.
And Russell Brand, I don't think any serious leftist ever actually thought that he was a real comrade, did they?
I think what I would say is I don't think any serious leftist ever thought that he had spent a whole lot of time, reading Marx, right? But what he was someone who ostensibly had thought about things that mattered in the same sphere and come to conclusions that are very left-wing. And the point I would make about that is that that's where most people are who are left-wing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't think I was ever fully convinced by his supposed left turn. It always felt very skin deep. Which I'm not saying that to be like, look at that. Like I thought was probably a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying that I had some sort of I always knew it was wrong or anything like that. My take is that a real heel turn requires someone who is absolutely a face, right? Like who is absolutely one of the good guys, and that's why I'm sticking with my Jeremy Corbyn.
I don't think you can put Jeremy Corbyn.
I cannot believe.
It's really tricky because I can't. It's tricky because obviously all politicians are bad.
But this one has spent his time defending landlords and transphobes.
I think yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm like. This is what I'm saying. Like, not necessarily because he agrees with them, but because he's too nice and too conflict averse to do anything about it.
Well, I think part of this is about how he thinks that change happens, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's a problem with a kind of this sort of Labour idea of a broad church that he hasn't quite shaken off.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm not sure you can justify that being a heel turn.
He's a heel to me now, I'm afraid. That is.
You just love Zara Sultana too much.
I hope and look forward to the day where I'm able to turn on Zara Sultana like she deserves. But for now, I don't actually fully trust her. But she's certainly heading in a better direction.
Look, this is where the anarchist in me comes in, right? Because you can't trust any of them, right? Like they're politicians at the end of the day, and they're going to disappoint you. Kill your heroes.
Okay, we have to come to a decision. I also worry a little bit that we're making light of some of the Russell Brand stuff. That was my other concern.
Making light in what sense? Because, my argument would be if he doesn't win it, then you're making light of what he did.
Brutal. Well, I can't really argue with that, can I? In my heart of my hearts, I will still believe that Jeremy Corbyn deserves the heel turn award. But on that basis, I'm prepared to accept your Russell Brand argument to avoid looking like an arsehole. All right, we have the kind of midpoint finale before you're going to give us a saint of the week. one of my favourite names of the awards. What's best about this name is Adam and I both came up with it independently and made us laugh independently. And then both were like, that is a bit stupid. And then shared it and were like, no, that's perfect. This is the Charlotte Church Award for Best Church.
Oh, and I forgot I was going to get a Charlotte Church clip and put it on the soundboard, and I forgot because I replaced it with...
And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis?
I don't think that's Charlotte Church saying that. I'm going to go because mine was rushed quite quick. But something I'd come across was St Mary's Church in Totnes. A church that I knew of a little bit because Totnes is a town in Devon. It's like a market town, but it's got this weird kind of hippie, progressive vibe to it. It's really cool. It's got a great record store,
independent shops.
Yeah, all that good jazz. And to me, Totnes was kind of it is an Anglican church. It still uses an Anglican church, but it was also very much centre of the music scene within Totnes, and like one of the main venues for the annual festival that takes place in Totnes. It's actually quite good. It's it's not, you think of a festival in a market town in Devon. It's not that. It's actually quite an interesting, cool kind of alternative indie, independent festival going on down there. And then, so I've never heard of this place, and I know they do a bunch of good community work. They are redoing the church itself. They're doing a big project, got a load of funding to redo it. And there's this big thing about making it they continue to serve as a church, but also a community hub. And they're very specific about one of the things they need it as a community hub for is as a space people can meet to look at how to tackle climate change. So I think it's quite a cool thing. They do a bunch of interfaith work as well. And as I say, centre of the music scene. All of that notwithstanding, the current rector there got himself arrested as a terrorist earlier this year for holding a Palestine Action sign. Which
that was a criminal air horn. I retract that.
Yeah.
Palestine Action are bad, and they are evil communists or something.
Yes.
Don't arrest me.
So, please do not arrest Adam. He's fine. He doesn't think anything that he just air horned.
Do not support Palestine Action.
Yeah. Of course not. Anyway, Father Jim Barlow got himself nicked because he was holding a sign saying, I support Palestine Action. And particularly enjoyably, because I did a little Google around of him, he was actually the vicar of the parish church of my hometown, Bracknell, after I left. But yeah, seems like a cool guy. I don't know loads about it, but I was, when I came across the fact that he'd been arrested, I thought, well, it's already a cool church, doing loads of stuff in the music scene, doing some cool stuff like in that community. And it turns out that he's got arrested doing that. And what I really enjoyed is when he gets arrested, like the local MP and the town council all put out statements that are very carefully worded, but basically amount to, without commenting on what he's done, he's a cool dude and we like him, which is just such a great representation of you as a person. If when you get arrested, a bunch of civic institutions are like, hey, this guy's cool, we dig him, be nice to him.
Which shows the ridiculousness of the prescription of Palestine Action, right?
Well, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a solid choice. I'm going to go for a church that I visited. So the thing is, it's quite difficult for me, right? Because my line of work, I see a lot of different churches. Mm-hmm. A bit less so now in the job that I'm currently in, but I've
you've been to a few in your time.
Right, and specifically engaging them on the level of the really cool work that they can do as a church and indeed do as a church. So there were a lot of churches that crossed my mind to put up for this award, and any one of them would have been a great choice. But I'm going with All Hallows in Leeds. All Hallows Leeds is a church that I visited for the first time probably like 10 years ago or something. And that first visit was the first time I ever went to an iftar meal, which is the sort of Muslim kind of breaking fast kind of meal during Ramadan, and they held it in the church. Because this church, the interfaith work that they do is genuinely incredible. The vicar there, a guy called Heston, who, for his sins is a white South African, but there are good ones who exist.
Few and far between, but they are out there.
Yeah. A really good guy, a really, really good guy. And he goes into schools with his mate, who's the imam of the local mosque. And they do this bit where they say, one of us is an immigrant. Can you guess which one?
That's
and of course,
really
all the kids go for the brown man, don't they? Who is not an immigrant, actually. Yeah. So it's wonderful. And they've got so many cool projects that they run out of this church. One of them, Rainbow Junction, is all about tackling food poverty. So they've got like breakfast clubs and making meals out of like leftover food, that kind of thing. So just a really, really cool place that's got loads going on. And if you're ever in Leeds and you need a church, I would absolutely recommend going to All Hallows.
A strong choice. I rate that. Let me put this question to you. Has Damon Albarn ever played a gig at All Hallows? Because he's played a gig at my place. I mean, that's my trump card here. They had Damon Albarn.
Isn't he a prick, though?
I don't think Damon Albarn's a prick. If he is, I don't want to know. His bassist is. The bassist in Blur is, right?
Well, so he's associating with...
Yeah, well, what can he do? Bassists, man. You know what they're like.
I mean, you like What's Their Face, so...
Are we talking about Radiohead again?
Radiohead, yeah.
Yeah. I got an email from the other day letting me know that Johnny Greenwood, the guitarist, was selling his olive oil, and I was like, I will not need to look into that any further. Let's not find out what's going on there.
I think they did recently just stop playing in Israel, didn't they?
Yeah.
Sorry, occupied Palestine.
Yeah.
Well, it's all occupied, but...
So, I'm actually prepared to accept All Hallows because I really like the "Who's an Immigrant" bit. Like that's such a
very
solid
cool,
bit,
isn't it? Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that is our first lot of awards. So we're going to take a little break now, and Adam is going to tell us about a Saint of the Week.
Saint of the Week.
Okay, I'm going to start this with a question, Ben. Can God suffer?
I would say yes.
That puts you closest to the Miaphysite or anti-Chalcedonian position. So you reject the Council of Chalcedon.
Oh no.
But you're in good company. I'm going to ask you another question, though. In order to receive wisdom on this, how far would you go? Who would you actually listen to?
Oh, good question. I mean, I'm doing like liberation theology, Jürgen Moltmann. I guess that would be the like obvious. But I feel like maybe that's not enough.
So what's interesting about that is I think that you have actually rationalized this in potentially in a different way to how you're coming across. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of controversies in the early centuries in the like patristic period of the Christian church, right? Because you had all of these councils meeting and agreeing and disagreeing with each other and splitting from each other for things that now feel like really kind of spurious reasons, right? Essentially, this translates poorly, and this word kind of has this hints of this slight other meaning. So we don't like this, and therefore we're going to split with you because of it, right?
Right, yeah.
And that is kind of the history of Christianity, really. But this really mattered to people back then, right? So early Christianity broadly agreed that Jesus is truly God. Are we in agreement on that one?
I'm prepared to agree with that, yes.
Okay. And that Jesus truly suffered and died.
Right, yeah, so this was my kind of go-to on that, right? Like,
Right. Now, the question is, if God is impassible, that is, cannot suffer, what exactly happens on the cross? And this is a huge question because it shapes the background to many things, but in particular the Council of Chalcedon and things like Nestorianism. Whether Christ has one nature or two natures, right?
yeah.
So it kind of shapes salvation, incarnation, and how God relates to human suffering as well, right? So you said that God can suffer, and what that would mean is that there's a union of the divinity and the humanity in Christ, right?
Yeah.
So God genuinely enters into suffering. He doesn't just kind of observe from the outside.
Yeah.
The opposite side of that is the Diophysite idea, which is that because God is unchanging and can't be like overwhelmed by the experience of creation, he can't suffer. Therefore, Christ, being one God and one person, still kind of actually has two natures.
Yeah.
And the church split on this. And there are churches in the world, i.e. the Oriental Orthodox Church, that are still separate because of this. Anyway, we've got the Council of Chalcedon in 451. I realise I'm getting quite annoyingly kind of theological and so on in this, but it's important to understand what was going on before we get to the particular figure who is going to be the Saint of the Week. So the Council of Chalcedon agreed that Christ is one person in two natures, divine and human, right? So that was a rejection of Nestorianism, which kind of separated out even further. And this was affirmed by all the churches that we, like the main churches of the world. So like obviously the Western Church, which is now like the Catholics and the Protestants, and the Orthodox churches. But it was rejected by the Oriental Orthodox churches, the Syriac Orthodox, the Coptics, and the Armenians, who were very quick to reject it. So in the 5th century, in Antioch, you've got this guy who becomes the bishop of Antioch, and he is called Peter the Fuller. And Peter the Fuller added an extra bit to the ancient hymn known as the Trisagion, right? And this became known as the Trisagion controversy. So you might have heard the Trisagion. It goes, Holy God, Holy Mighty, Holy Immortal, right? But Peter the Fuller added, who was crucified for us? And the reason that was a problem is because you can interpret, nobody really knows whether this hymn is directed specifically to the person of Christ or to the whole of the triune God.
Yeah.
And so by doing this, it made people really angry because it was seen as attributing suffering directly to the divine nature, right?
Yeah.
So people were properly angry. And around this time in Antioch, you have this guy who comes along called Isaac of Antioch. Now, Isaac of Antioch wrote this incredible sermon about this very thing, because at the time, he wasn't really sure either. He leaned towards accepting this addition, but he wasn't sure. And so he is present in Antioch, and he sees a really angry crowd outside this very famous ancient church, apparently built by Simeon. And they're angry about this addition, and they're trying to get that removed.
Yeah.
And Isaac of Antioch joins this crowd to kind of see what's going on, and he hears them all angry and talking about this and shouting about this. And over this hubbub, over this angry noise, he hears a very clear voice reciting the Trisagion with the Miaphysite edition, who was crucified for us. And so this voice is directly contradicting this angry crowd. A very bold thing to do in such a kind of ferocious moment. Can you guess who this voice belonged to?
Jesus.
It's a very holy answer.
That's always
Ben.
the answer.
It's very, very holy. Not in this case. I mean, maybe in a sort of abstract kind of way, sure. This is why I was asking you where you would take wisdom from.
A donkey.
You're closer. You're closer. So, I was reading a book today about this. It's quite a academic book, and it was released last year, written by Robert A. Kitchen and Glenn Piers, and the title of the book is "The Bird Who Sang the Trisagion of Isaac of Antioch," with the subtitle "Becoming Parrot in a Late Antique Syriac Sermon."
Yes, sick.
A man had taught his parrot
So good.
to repeat the Trisagion. And Isaac of Antioch loved this so much that he was instantly convinced on the spot that this was the correct theology. And he went on to write a long sermon in poetic form
Yes.
that has been translated in this book, which has thankfully been made available for free on, I think, academia.edu or something. But, you know, if you can afford to buy the proper version, then you should. And I want to read one or two bits of this translation, because it's just wonderful. So it starts off, "Give birth in me, my Lord, by your mercy. I shall speak concerning the parrot." I just love that. I love that as an opening. Later on, "By the sound of the lyre of your cross and by the song of your praise, a memra full of benefits, who chirped to us the faith."
Why are we not training more parents to talk to people about Jesus?
Exactly. Now, I first came across this some years ago when I was reading this book by Diarmaid MacCulloch, History of Christianity, which is a good book. And it occurred to me when we were thinking of categories for this award, and we wanted the award for journalism.
Yes.
And we needed someone to name the journalism award after. And I thought, hang on a minute. Wasn't there a guy in the 5th century who trained his parrot to sing the Trisagion? And so my suggestion to us is that we name the award for journalism Isaac's Parrot Award for Journalism.
Isaac's Parrot.
Yeah.
And so to clarify, the saint of the week this week is specifically the parrot.
The parrot, not Isaac.
Good.
The parrot.
Yeah, 100%.
And look, Isaac played his role. I think it's wonderful. He's written this long thing, and there's this sort of tradition that he sort of became parrot, right?
Yeah. But the parrot is clearly the protagonist of the story.
Absolutely. And the thing is as well, just to be clear, although it probably this is in true kind of saint of the week fashion, this probably did happen. It probably was a parrot, but we don't know for sure either of these things. But we think it probably did.
Sick. That's better than usual, to be fair.
There's solid evidence, I think. I certainly err on the side of the parrot existed. Yeah. We actually don't know if it was a parrot, even if it happened, if it existed, because it's translated as bird, so it could be any kind of bird. And it's not till I think about the 10th century that we have something that is sort of saying by tradition it was a parrot, and it does make sense that it would be a parrot. There are other birds that can speak, but it probably was a parrot. And so I would really encourage people to go and find this book and read this translation, because it is absolutely wonderful, and has incredible lines about the beauty of this parrot's voice and all that kind of thing. It's really, really strong stuff. So yeah, Isaac's parrot is our saint of the week for this week.
Saint of the week.
Thank you so much. Let us move on to the Isaac's Parrot Award for Journalism. I'll go first with mine. I've picked a specific journalist, actually, Hannah Summers, who works for the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, which is actually a very good organisation that does a lot of work uncovering various things kind of through its investigative journalism. And they employ Hannah Summers as the only specialist family court reporter in the UK media at all, which is absolutely mad. So no one else's job is to report on what's going on in family courts, right? Which is actually a major scandal when you think about it. Like, actually, there was no media scrutiny in any serious way of the family court system. And, I have a bit of a bugbear about the fact that pretty regularly people will start talking about how social care is in trouble. And then I'll put my ears up and it'll become quickly clear that they're talking about adult social care, and that it continues to be the case that no one cares about children's social care or what's going on in there. And it's pretty bad. I'm not going to lie to you. Actually, it's possibly struggling more than adult social care.
And it's been the case for a long time, actually,
yes,
as well.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, no one seems interested at all in what's going on there, which is very bad. But yeah, in particular, Hannah Summers has been following the story of a woman called Melanie Gill, who is an unregulated psychologist who has given evidence to family courts over up to 200 times. And there is a belief that multiple children have been taken from their mothers, at least a dozen, on the basis of Gill's testimony on a concept called parental alienation. And parental alienation is a completely bullshit idea that is basically that mums are turning their kids against their father by kind of making up stories of abuse. That's a slight oversimplification of what they're trying to say, but fundamentally it is a way that abusive men use bullshit psychology to try and get women to not have custody of their own children, which is really very bad. Gill, this psychologist, says that unfortunately the family court judges haven't got a bloody clue, because they've bought into ideas about domestic violence spun internationally by radical feminism, that all men are violent and all women are victims, and dismissed hopelessly biased domestic violence charities that validate women's allegations of abuse. So this is a really grim thing that has happened. We probably wouldn't know about it without the reporting from Hannah Summers and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. And it is now being kind of taken up at a higher level. Claire Waxman, who is going to be the Victims Commissioner for England and Wales, has kind of taken it up and described the removal of children on the advice of unregulated experts is a national scandal on par with the Post Office injustice. So this is a serious problem. This Melanie Gill will not have been the only unregulated expert that has given testimony to family courts that has resulted in people potentially having children taken away from them for without a good reason. But we simply wouldn't know about it if it wasn't for Hannah Summers' work at the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. So that is my nomination for the Isaac Parrot award for journalism.
That's going to be hard to beat, I'll be honest. Something that actually has made some obvious real world change on something that is very, very important. Yeah. I'm going with the Beer Christianity, guys.
Yeah, I did feel a bit bad when you mentioned to me this is what you were going to nominate.
Look, I'm going to give you my best case, all right? So, John T. Langley, Malky Curry, and Laura Durrant are the co-hosts of Beer Christianity. But specifically what I'm nominating them for is Shibboleth magazine, which we've spoken about a number of times at this point. Now, I obviously have a bit of a horse in this race because they have published my articles. They've also published one of yours, so you're a traitor.
Yeah.
But, you know, Shibboleth is a really, really important addition, I think, to the journalistic world, specifically the sort of Christian journalistic world, because there's just sod all being done in terms of like left-wing Christian journalism, really on a sort of consistent basis until now. And they have an excellent magazine, an excellent website, and everyone should go and follow their stuff and share their stuff widely, particularly because, you know, we live in a time of growing fascism, and particularly when Christian nationalism is being used as a way to support that growth in the far right. So it's really, really important that we have consistent, good quality Christian journalism challenging all of this bullshit. So that's why I decided to nominate them. And I think I'm right. And I think, you know, you can go and talk about how we should look after the children and the women who are being attacked by abusive men. All you like, Ben.
So I think, to be clear, I think if we're doing it on the basis of who has the moral upper hand, who has contributed to the Mercy Society and who's made a huge difference in the world, Hannah Summers is a clear winner. However, we do personally know the Shibboleth magazine guys, and I've never met Hannah Summers.
Therefore, they win.
Yeah. And frankly, this is in no way a fair or reasonable awards process.
No, I'm sorry. There's no way you can award this to the Shibboleth guys. I'm sorry, John T, Malky, and Laura, but I'm not going to allow it. Like, I love you. It's the magazine is wonderful. Thank you for publishing my bullshit. Keep doing what you're doing. It's very important, but you can't have this one, I'm afraid.
I just think it's going to be socially awkward if we don't give it to them, but that's fine.
I think it'll be, honestly, I think it'll be socially awkward if we do give it to them.
Yeah, that's true,
and
actually.
they know that they beat someone who has done something like this.
All right.
So we'll give them an honourable mention or something. Yeah.
But the Isaacs Parrott Award for Journalism does go to Hannah Summers at the investigative. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism. Are you ready, Adam, for what I think is my favourite name of the award? And not just because I came up with it. We have now the Sean Dyche Award for Utter Woke Nonsense.
Okay, you're going to have to explain to anyone who doesn't know what that is, what that's referring to, what on earth is going on here. Particularly because people are going to assume that anyone who's nominated for this award is an arsehole, when that is not the spirit of that award at all.
Yeah, this is a positive award. We originally were going to do a bunch of different awards for various kind of... like quote unquote woke stuff, and essentially we didn't have time to do all of them, so we have amalgamated it into our kind of I guess social justice, liberation practice, whatever you want to call it, award. But for those of you who don't know, there is a meme of football manager Sean Dyche, who, as far as I know, is not a raving fascist, but kind of has both looks a little bit like one, but also plays or sets up his teams to play football in a way that it appeals to a certain kind of British mindset. So there's a meme of him with the phrase, like, falsely attributed to him, the quote, utter woke nonsense, which is a brilliant meme that I use far more regularly than I should. But this is the Sean Dyche Award for utter woke nonsense.
To be clear, he's applying that phrase ostensibly, like, because obviously he didn't say it, but he's supposedly applying the phrase utter woke nonsense to modern tactics concerning football. So, which he doesn't believe in. He just believes in, like, punt it and score a goal.
He has to be physically restrained from playing 4-4-2. But he dreams of having a big man and a little man up front.
I like Sean Dyche. I think he's great.
He's a better coach than he gets credit for. But Adam, who is your nominee for the Sean Dyche Award for utter woke nonsense?
So, bearing in mind that this is a positive award, look, there's so many people you could award this to. I remembered a letter I had read in Church Times. I sort of half remembered it, and so I went looking for it, and I found it. So my nominee for this is the Reverend Dr. Claire Herbert. And Claire, in October, wrote a letter to the Church Times about the process in the Church of England to introduce marriage blessings and same-sex marriages, and so accepting that, and the breakdown of that, and how the House of Bishops have been absolutely crap on that, and have gone back on their word, really. And I'm going to read you her letter because I think it said what a lot of people were feeling. So it says, "Madam, I've spent my working life in ministry in the Church of England as parish worker, deaconess, deacon, and priest. I am now in my 70s. I can, therefore, remember at the very start of my ministry the cry of the late Dr. Una Kroll, which she hurled from the gallery of the General Synod when, in 1978, progress towards the ordination of women to the priesthood was halted. Her cry was of rage and beseeching. We asked for bread, and you gave us a stone. So I recognised the cold, hard stone in my own heart when I read this week that the House of Bishops had decided that there should be no immediate change to the current rules that bar the clergy from being in same-sex civil marriages. It is that stone in the pit of the stomach which is formed by the pain of knowing that a cry for equality has gone unheard. On the 31st of May, I married my partner of 35 years. Surrounded by joyful witness to our enduring love, my partner became my wife in a Quaker marriage ceremony. In retirement, I have become a Quanglican, that is, one who gladly attends Anglican services and Quaker meetings for worship. My wife is a Quaker, and in the religious society of friends, I have experienced a profound sense of freedom, affirmation, and openness, such as I have never known before. My personhood and closest relationship were celebrated that day in a fullness to which I continue to respond with gratitude, joy, love, and the desire to continue serving the God who made me. We in the lesbian and gay community may choose to pick up and live with the heavy, joyless stones imposed on our heads and hearts by an unresponsive church. But it is important to recognise that we do not have to do so in obedience to God. I have discovered the God who is a giver of bread. Claire Herbert.
What else is there to say?
Yeah. Just really, really bringing humanity and rage to something that requires it. So that is my nomination. It is. I struggle to call it utter woke nonsense because obviously it's not nonsense. It's
utter
woke
nonsense,
sure.
In the best possible way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no argument there. I think that's a really beautiful piece of writing, I guess, and a reminder of what an absolute mess the Church of England has got herself in. Just, I don't know, hard to hear in some ways, but absolutely dead on.
Is that going uncontested? Have you got a nominee?
I do have a nominee. I think it's probably going to lose, but I think it's important to talk about anyway. Which is, have you heard of the CARICOM Reparations Commission?
I don't think so.
It is the body that is leading the Caribbean's slavery reparations movement, and early this year in November, they visited the UK. And had a bunch of meetings with parliamentarians, diplomats, academics, civil society groups. It's their first ever official visit to the UK. Hopefully, it will not be their last. And they said the advocacy visit to the UK is historic, as is the first, and what we anticipate will be a series of engagements to raise consciousness and awareness, correct misconceptions about the reparations movement, and build strategic partnerships to take this critical agenda to right historical wrongs forward. Governments in the Caribbean have been calling for a recognition and reparations for colonialism and slavery for a long time. Starmer ruled out not that long ago either any form of apology, saying it needed to be looking forward, and any form of financial reparations, but has been taking tentative steps at walking that back, based on the pressure, in part being put on by these Caribbean governments and the CRC. And I think it's actually very exciting that the movement has got to a point where it's possible to send a kind of delegation that would have, it's not just a few people, it's not even just a couple of governments. There is enough kind of power and force behind the movement that there is slowly building, but definitely building momentum behind the movement for reparations. And I hope this is the start of something bigger.
I think what's interesting about this is you say that your nomination should lose, but I think you've got a strong case.
Yeah.
Because, for one thing, they're trying to accomplish, they're both trying to accomplish something huge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But reparations would be far bigger than the acceptance of...
Yeah.
And that's not to say that the acceptance of same-sex marriage in the Church of England isn't really important, because it is, and I want to see it. I ideally want to see it. But it's not as big a task,
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have as big an effect on as many people. I think what happened here is that I read something that was a beautiful, well-put letter about it, and it tugs on the heartstrings, right? It is. It's hard to, because we're emotional creatures, right? We respond to human emotion and how things feel to people, rather than facts and figures and statistics and logic and so on. So we can logically agree that there should be reparations, but until you find someone who's written a heartrending letter, Ben, I'm afraid you can't have it.
That is fair. I'm sure someone has written it, but I haven't found it. So, Reverend Dr. Claire Herbert, you are the official recipient of the Sean Dyche Award for utter woke nonsense.
I can't believe I've argued that and won.
But also, I think we will reserve, I think almost we need to give this award when reparations are won. Come soon. Right, we've got two more. These are the big two awards. We're looking... Our big final award is going to be Best Christian of the Year.
We're doing that one first? Oh,
no.
Right, okay.
But before we get to that, we do need to award the Judas Iscariot Award for Worst Christian. Okay, look. There was a point where this would have been a competition. Okay? David Lammy, very firmly in the mix. The Foreign Secretary, who is an active Anglican and is also actively supporting bombing the shit out of Gaza, including many of his siblings in Christ there. Real strong case for a bunch of other people. But You can't rule out Wes Streeting, ultimately. You just can't fuck with Wes Streeting.
Wes Streeting, a Christian?
Oh, Wes Streeting is a hardline Anglican, my friend.
Oh, fuck off.
And he was in the running, and I think he knew it, because then he came out with his "was too many bloody autisms" moment.
Okay. So, do you want to hear who my...
Yeah, go on.
So, I actually had two names.
Uh-huh.
I have one name who I'll give you in a minute. But I had another name who I want to give an honourable mention to.
Dishonourable mention, I think is the...
Yeah, a dishonourable mention to this one, because I was set on this person, and then when I was reading the letter in the Church Times by Claire Herbert, I kept reading the other letters until I came to a letter entitled Conduct of the Gaza War and Hatred of Jews, written by official enemy of the pod, the Reverend Dr. Ian Paul.
we have not talked about that fucker in a while, have we? Yeah, he's a real piece of shit, yeah.
So he's written not that long, he's written a letter to the Church Times in October. Still at this point.
So this is October 2025.
October the 24th, 2025.
So he's watched like a live streamed genocide happening and been like, you know what this needs? Me to defend the genocide.
Yeah, and of course he goes into the whole, in the Middle Ages, hatred of Jews was motivated by believing they were immoral and not just outsiders, based on blood libels, etc., etc. Not so different from the accusations made today. And he comes up with clearly bullshit lines about how it's the lowest civilian to combatant ratio of any modern urban war, far lower than recent wars conducted by the US and the UK. And the horror has primarily arisen because of the uncritical circulation of Hamas propaganda. So this is really disgusting stuff. Really, really disgusting stuff. So yeah, dishonourable mention for the Reverend Dr. Ian Paul. However, my actual nominee is none other than David Lammy. And I think I get what you're saying about Wes Streeting. I really don't like Wes Streeting. He's a bad guy. He needs a good poke in the eye. But I think that David Lammy, I mean, he could have been in the heel turn as well. But,
except he was never really.
He was a liberal, but like he spoke. Here's the thing: he spoke movingly about Grenfell, right?
Yeah.
And part of that was, he framed it himself as a black man talking about how a lot of the reason Grenfell had been ignored and the residents of Grenfell had been ignored when they said that they wanted proper safety in the building was that a lot of them were people of colour, all right, and foreign people and immigrants and so on, right? And he spoke movingly on that. And I think that's interesting because he's able to do that. He's able to recognize these things, the injustice of these things, when they affect a community close to him and a community that he sees himself as in some way still having a part in. But as soon as he gets the slightest sniff of power, he becomes the most disgusting, one of the most disgusting politicians in the country. And I think he beats Wes Streeting on this simply because of the role that they both occupy in the cabinet and previously the shadow cabinet. David Lammy is a large part of the reason the UK has maintained its role in aiding and abetting a genocide in Palestine. He is a large part of the reason we've got people starving to death in British prisons. This man is an absolute fucking monster. Or rather, he's done absolutely fucking monstrous things.
Yeah.
Right? On a level I don't think Wes Streeting... Look, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Wes is capable of it. We'll see when he becomes Prime Minister.
I know. God, it's bad. It's going to be him or Farage. Kind of pick your poison. Jesus.
Well, it won't be. I mean, it won't be Farage first, right? Because they'll get rid of Starmer and they'll replace him with probably Wes Streeting.
So you're saying it's going to be both of them? Fuck me.
Yeah, probably. Unless Andy Burnham gets in.
Yeah, maybe.
Sort of.
I also don't think Farage will be Prime Minister. That's my hot take, but there we go. He'll continue to be the most influential politician in the last probably 20 years, right? But yeah, I don't think he will never be PM. That's my hot take.
Maybe not. We'll see. I hope not.
Yeah,
I really hope not. But yeah, so I think I think as much as I really, really dislike, and anyone who's close to me will tell you how much I dislike Wes Streeting. I love him with Christian love.
Yeah.
I dislike him intensely
Yeah.
in every other way. But so, yeah, anyone will tell you that I really don't like Wes Streeting, but I think David Lammy has proven himself a singularly, I don't know about evil person, but someone who has conducted himself in a singularly evil way.
Okay, so look, as I said, Lammy was really in the running. It was Lammy and Streeting were my two kind of big, possibilities. But then when Streeting came out and said that there is too much diagnosis of mental health and ADHD and autism.
Which is definitely a worse crime than aiding and abetting a genocide, to be fair.
No. Don't misunderstand me. They were neck and neck, and that's what took him over the edge. But first of all, let's be clear that Streeting is maybe less guilty than Lammy of aiding and abetting a genocide, but is certainly also involved in that, right? As a senior member of the cabinet, and someone who historically has been better than that, if not good, on that, right? Like, he is not. He's never been a pro-Palestinian activist or anything like that, but he has historically had more of a centrist position on it rather than a full-throated support of what is going on. His thing about Wes Streeting is that he makes a big deal about the fact he's an Anglican. And how much his faith means to him. He describes himself as a Christian nerd. He is gay, and he has described how for many years he struggled to come to terms with the fact that he was gay because of his faith, right? Which is really sad, but only makes him more of a douchebag for the fact that he then met with the Bayswater support group. And it was revealed this year that he has had multiple meetings with the Bayswater support group, known for its extreme anti-trans positions, including forced detransing and what is essentially child abuse and conversion therapy. They are an abuse-promoting organisation that wants trans people not to exist, and that was a known fact when he met with them. He has met with them twice, as we found out this year. He actually was softly in favour of trans rights until the wind turned, and he felt like the popular thing to do was be anti-trans. His nickname apparently has for many years been the weather vane, because you can tell which way the wind is blowing by which way he turns. But yeah, I think we are essentially talking about someone who is, yes, actively involved in upholding the Gaza genocide, but is also actively promoting child abuse. There was no other way of putting it. His work to prevent trans children getting the medical care they need is actively part of a process of child abuse that groups like the Bayswater support group are taking part in. And that is why I had Wes Streeting over Lammy for Worst Christian of the Year.
Look, you put forward a strong case, but I don't think you get it, in my opinion. David Lammy has done all of the same things. I don't know about the conversion therapy, certainly. But yeah, he's certainly talked a lot about how important his Christian faith is to him, and used that politically as well to further his political career, just as Wes Streeting has, and he's changed his views, just as Wes Streeting has. For example, he described himself in 2024 as a Christian socialist, which is funny. But also in 2025, hosted JD Vance at Chevening House, and they went fishing together. Yeah. And he said that he could find common ground with them because he was a small C conservative.
I'd forgotten about the Vance shit, yeah. Do you know what? I was already going to say to you that you should probably have it on the basis that I actually really struggled to choose between Streeting and Lammy, and it was only the last-minute autism thing from Streeting that pushed me over the edge. So I think that's fair. However, I put it to you that we should also give a Julius Iscariot Lifetime Achievement Award to Ian Paul in recognition of
Absolutely.
Heresy! Remove this filth!
Okay, so David Lammy gets the award, but a Lifetime Achievement Award for Ian Paul. We now come to the most prestigious award in the selection of awards that we made up the other day. That is, of course, the San Negro Matapacos Award for Best Christian. Adam, please remind us who this award is named for.
This award is named for a previous Saint of the Week, known as El Negro Matapacos, sometimes known as San Negro Matapacos, who was a Chilean riot dog who was canonized by the people, particularly the people of Chile, and but also around the world, because he always sided with the protesters over the cops. So we're naming this award after him because he was clearly the greatest Christian there has ever been.
Yeah. And dogs are without sin because they lack consciousness. So
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think they lack sin because they're dogs. I'm not sure I think they lack consciousness.
That's not the word I meant, but let's just move on. Let's just accept that he was without sin, but he definitely was a Christian. So a very good boy. Look, I think I've gone slightly obvious here, but Reverend Sue Parfit was my nomination. One of the first people to get ordained as a woman in the Church of England, is now a very old woman who is retired and got arrested earlier this year for holding a sign saying, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action."
Which you should never say.
Yeah.
You should never say it.
So, was arrested, is facing terrorism charges, had her right to officiate as a priest been taken away by her diocese, who are a bunch of spineless fools.
Who are also my employers, and I cannot allow that to stand. She had it taken away by the bishop, but yeah, no, I don't agree with that at all. Sue Parfit is wonderful. She's a very worthy nominee, but I don't think she's as worthy as my nominee.
Go on.
My nominee, I thought mine was a bit obvious as well. My nominee is Munther Isaac.
Yeah, fair.
I don't quite know his exact position, but he's a priest in Palestine, a Lutheran minister in the West Bank in Palestine, and he has been just absolutely consistent with on the whole issue of the genocide and of Zionism and all the rest of it. And he has called out people specifically by name, very powerful people. There was one that springs to mind is when Justin Welby cancelled a meeting with him, and Munther Isaac was just very, very direct with him. And because you know he's living it, right? And when you're living it, it doesn't really matter anymore whether powerful people think you're mean. And indeed, Justin Welby reversed that decision. And he's been consistent on that with so many people and organizations, and he's been very critical of the way the world has been dealing with it and the way churches, specifically and Christians, have approached this issue. So, I think for me, Sue Parfit, wonderful, love her to bits, but I think Munther Isaac takes it personally.
That is fair. I think that's hard to argue against. A really cool person. If you get an opportunity to read some of his books, he was He's written some great books. I will say, he is a Liverpool fan. So,
remove this filth.
I don't know. No one's perfect, I suppose. But I think I'm happy to award Month Isaac that. Big shout out to Sue Parfitt, but yeah, I think I think that's a fair victory. And obviously, he was minted by Mitchie Raheb, who was also a fantastic liberation theologian, Palestinian liberation theologian.
Is a legend, yeah, as well.
Yeah, so much love to both of them, and solidarity as always.
I think that means I because this is a competition.
Yeah,
that means I have beaten you fairly
comprehensively,
which probably says more about your ability to compromise than my ability to pick the correct people.
Yeah, I have to say, in retrospect, I'm furious that I didn't fight harder for Jeremy Corbyn for the Heel Turn Award. Like, that's the one I look back on and think you should have compromised on that. The rest, I don't disagree with, but that one.
All I'm going to say, Ben, now that I have beaten you so convincingly, I'm going to say this to you.
And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis?
Brilliant. Let's just go through our winners to celebrate their success. The Piece of Shit prize goes to Elon Musk. The Jack Carlson Award for Protest goes to the Hunger Strikers. The Sir Moses the Black Award for the Biggest Badass goes to Greta Thunberg. The Paul Mason Award for Turning Heel, controversially, goes to Russell Brand. The Charlotte Church Award for Best Church goes to All Hallows Leeds. Isaac's Parrott Award for Journalism goes to Hannah Summers. The Sean Dyche Award for Utter Woke Nonsense goes to Reverend Dr. Claire Herbert. The Judas Iscariot Award for Worst Christian goes to David Lammy, with a Lifetime Achievement Award to Ian Paul. And the San Negro Matapakos Award for Best Christian does go to Month Isaac. A big well done to almost all of our winners. Most of you have done very well just to get nominated. You should be very proud of yourselves. That brings us to the end of the first, and who knows, maybe not last, Bread and Rosaries Awards. It has been a pleasure. Obviously, these awards are fixed. It's a scam. And ultimately it's about a popularity contest rather than really representing the art. But what can you do? That's just the nature of award ceremonies.
That is true. We are playing into a noble tradition of choosing whoever we want, making it up as we go along, whatever you want.
Is a noble tradition? Is that a pun? That's a really bad pun if it is.
I'm afraid I'm not getting it.
Because of the Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh, right, okay. I was like, is it like associated with sort of noblemen?
No,
someone whose name is Noble, noble gases?
Wasn't an intentional pun. Fair enough.
I'll take it. Look, I'll take the pun, but...
We will call it a day there. Adam, a pleasure, as always, to host the awards with you. Where in the world can people find you?
You can find me most places at Commie XIAN.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. A very Merry Christmas to you and yours. If you want to get in contact, particularly if you want to express support for some of my choices that didn't get picked, all our contact details are at breadandrosaries.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have some pennies that you'd like to chuck our way, maybe a little Christmas gift, then we do have a Patreon. All the details are on the website. Otherwise, we will see you. I think this is going to be our last episode of the year, probably. So we will see you very soon, probably in 2026. Love and solidarity, as always. A very Merry Christmas. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
See you later.
Democracy Manifest.